Hey, XR here, and today we're going to look at a new city building slash survival game that's just been recently released on Steam. Is very popular already, called Banished. And thing about Banished is it's a city builder, but it's also a survival game. So it's actually quite difficult to have your people survive. You have to provide enough food and firewood, and that's sort of the case when most city builders. But Banish takes it to the next level, wherein it's the point of the game is to survive without all your people dying off, rather than just to build a big city. And so, a consequence of that, it's a little bit difficult, especially at the beginning, and new players sometimes have a difficult time starting off. Now, I've had a fair bit of success with my biggest city that I've been working on, and you can kind of see it in the background. It takes your most recent game and puts it in the background of the menu screen here. And it's not. I know there are people who have gotten huge cities successfully, but my biggest currently is like 80 people, and with no. I haven't had a single person die of starvation or freezing, and there's no limits to my growth so far. I haven't had any problems, and I'm still producing food and firewood and stuff. So I figured I'd do a video showing the beginning of a new game and the kind of stuff you should do to get off to a successful start in Banished. So we'll do a new game here. Now, town name. Just like to click along till I find one that I find humorous or decent sounding. Roswego. Menomingus, that's a good name. This is the map seed. It's all randomly generated maps. I'm just going to click it a bunch to get a random one. Terrain type is valleys or mountains. Valleys is slightly easier. Terrain size, small, medium, or large. Medium is pretty good. I've actually been playing on a small map, but I'm starting to feel it's a little bit too small, which is why I'm going to start a medium. Climate, fair is the medium difficulty. Disasters, we'll turn them on just to be give a accurate demonstration. And starting conditions, medium, and that means that you start with a decent amount of clothing, food, firewood, tools, and some construction materials, and a storage barn has already been built. And you start with some seeds rather, for fields and orchards. So, okay, we'll start with that. Now it's going to build the world for us. Da, da, da. Alright, so first things, let's pause and take a look at what we got here. It's pretty good. Really big lake here, wow. I haven't seen one that big before. Here's the big stream. Comes over here and goes down here. That's important because that's where traders are going to be. It's also where you need to build fishing. Okay, so here we are. Here's our storage barn. We're actually in a pretty good position here, I think. Now, my experience has been that the best thing to start off with, the first things you want to do for the first year is get some food coming in and some firewood. And so we want to build some food producing units, a woodcutter to make firewood, and possibly a forester, although that's really not super important until the second year or so. But we want to get those things done, and we also want to build some houses for our people. These little icons here mean that they're all homeless right now. First of all, let's open our information panels. I like to play with these three open. That one, this one, and this one open all the time. This is the profession manager. It lets you see what jobs people are assigned to and change them as you will. This is the event log. Just tells you, pops up little messages when events happen. And this is the overview. Shows us how much of the basic resources we have, food, stuff like that. I also want to just open this one, which is the limits. Your people will stop working if they hit these limits of these resources. And the starting ones are a little low, so I'm just going to make all these 200s, 400s. Tools 150. We'll start with food up at 8,000 because you really can never have too much food. Like herbs 200, clothes and alcohol are fine. We're not going to need to increase those for quite some time, then we can close that. Alright, so food is probably our first priority here. you can start right off with farming, but it's a little bit complicated, and we'll talk about farming a little later. But really, one of the most powerful food things in the game is the gatherer. And this is the gatherer over here, gatherer's hut. And now see, this yellow circle shows where they're going to gather from. And forests are definitely where you want to put a gatherer. Now he's going to have to walk back to the storage barn to deposit what he gathers, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but we'll build another storage barn before too long closer to where he is. So let's just do this with the maximum circle in the forest. Set that there. You can't really see it, but it did make an outline there. And let's also set a road. I can't really see it at all. I'm going to wait to build the road until they start to build the gatherer's hut so I can see it better. We'll also assign, right now we have 10 laborers, which are just the general builders, or general workers. Let's set 2 of them to builder, so they'll concentrate on building. Now what about the rest of our guys? Well, let's clear all this area out. You can see here there's stone and trees, which will give us logs, and there might be some iron around. Actually, it doesn't look like... Oh, this is all iron up here. But for now, we'll go over here, we'll go to remove resources, and what it really means is gather all resources, and we'll just highlight this whole area around our storage barn here. And now they will begin to cut that stuff up. Let's speed up time to 10x. See, it's now early spring of year 1. These guys are all gathering these resources. These guys are clearing out the space where the gatherer's hut is going to go. There it is. So now I can see well enough to, well, before the rain started, to place my road here. So here's the dirt road. We'll just put it down as straight as possible. Something's blocking it there, and that's okay. Front of the storage barn there. And we also want to build some houses, and there's 2 kinds of... I just pause it here while I'm talking. There's 2 kinds of houses. There's wood houses and stone houses. Stone houses are more expensive. They take a lot of stone. They take a lot... do they take more wood? They take more wood than wooden houses as well, and they take iron. The trade-off is that stone houses are warmer. They take less firewood to heat in the winter. So we start with a good amount of stone. So let's actually build a couple stone houses. Now, I think we need 3 houses, basically, to house all our starting people. And you want to kind of put the houses around where the professions are, because the people will go back to their houses to get warm and stuff. And so the closer the house is to where they're working, the more efficient they are, because they spend less time traveling. But we don't want to put it too close, because they're going to have to clear out, in the case of the gatherer's hut anyway, you don't want to put it too close, because they're going to have to clear out the trees to build the house, and that'll reduce your area of gathering. So let's kind of just put it over here. And we're going to have gatherers and foresters over here, so let's just put 3 houses right in a row. And they're going to go in priority order. You can increase the priority of oh, right. And I need to make my storage yard here, where they store things, is filling up. So I'm just going to put another one on the other side. It's just right here, stockpile. And you just trace it out. Put another one on the other side of the storage barn. And that just gives them a centralized location to drop all that stuff off. So they're building the gatherer's hut. Oh, they still need to build this? Okay, so here's a good example. They don't need to build, they need to remove the one tree. But if you want to increase the priority of something, you go in here to your tools and reports. And this one that's just an arrow is increase priority. And if you just drag it over the area of work, it increases the priority of that area. And so then they'll come and they'll do that before they do anything else. So as you can see, they've cleared that out, and now they're starting to put things there. Okay, I keep pausing it every time I'm talking just because I have it on 10x speed. Here's the gatherer's hut. It is now done, but there's nobody working there. That's what this question mark means. we need to assign some people to be gatherers. We can have 4 gatherers in each hut. We probably don't need 4 in here right now. We only have 15 people total. So, and we've got some food left over. So let's assign 2 of our laborers to be gatherers. And so they're going to go up here immediately and start gathering food. These guys are still working on clearing all this stuff off out of the way, and this is going to be like our central area for our town. Up here is going to be the forest area where we're going to have our foresters and gatherers. When we eventually start building farms, we'll probably put them down here. We'll put our blacksmith and woodcutter and all that kind of stuff down here as well. But I want to let them start building these houses, which they are now working on. It's early summer, so we've still got time. In fact, why don't I just lay it out now? We're going to need a woodcutter. 24 logs and 8 stone. And all these things they're knocking down should be giving us plenty to start with. Let's just put our woodcutter right here. That ought to be good, because he'll go here to get the logs, here to drop off the firewood, and bring back here to live. For the time being. So they should be working on... Put our builders up to 4 temporarily. You're going to be constantly changing this stuff. That's just kind of part of the game. You know, you increase your builders when you need more builders, take the builders away, assign them somewhere else when you don't need as many builders. You know, you're constantly going to be adjusting that stuff, and that's just part of the game. Alright, so we've got one house. Here comes the second one. And they're building the woodcutter at the same time. Actually, I'm going to assign... I don't like my food is going down a little faster than I like, so I'm going to assign 2 more people to be gatherers. Okay, so... We've got the 3 houses. There's still some homeless people. So we've got a young couple in here. Other people don't want to live with them. So let's build another house, too. We'll just build it across the street here and make this little neighborhood. Alright, woodcutter is now done. This is how you toggle work on and off if you ever want to shut a building down. You click on this little thing here, but we want the woodcutter to work. We need to assign one of our guys to be a woodcutter. And he will now start chopping firewood out of our logs. We also need to get a forester built, because foresters are what gives us more logs, other than directly telling our people to chop trees down. So, let us build a forester's lodge, and we're gonna, you know, it's the same deal with the other thing. It has a circle of its area of influence. Let's put it next to gatherer's hut here, so they kind of overlap. The other function the foresters have is not only do they cut trees down, they also plant new trees. So as long as you have a forester and you're not cutting them faster than you're planting them, and you can control in the forester's control panel whether they cut, plant, or both. And as long as you don't have them cutting more than they're planting, then you'll reach an equilibrium as far as the trees there. Alright, my food is still lower than I want, but we're doing good with resources so far. So I think, well, our firewood's kind of low too. I may have waited too long to build that forester. We still got a bunch of laborers, so what I'm going to tell them to do is directly cut down some trees. Let's cut down these trees over here. That'll give us some more logs that the woodcutter can work on over the course of the winter. Now we've got 4 houses. We've still got 2 homeless people. And they will duck into... I'm going to slow time down just a little bit so I can talk without things getting too ahead of me. When you have homeless people, they will duck into houses, existing houses, even if they're not their houses, in order to warm up in the winter. So they won't die. But the way you control your population is by houses. When you build a new house, if there's a young couple that are within a decent age range of each other, they'll move in together, and then they'll soon have a child. But if you don't have any houses for couples to move in together, then, you know, the houses are all full of older people or whatever. They won't have any children there won't be any new children born because the young couples won't move into them. So if you want to increase your population, build more houses. If you want to keep your population stable, don't build as many houses. Here's the forester. He's done. He's going to be working in this area of this circle here. And he's set to cut and plant right now, but you can turn either of those off. But we'll leave them both on for now. And let us put 2 foresters in there. So now we only have 1 laborer. It's important to always have at least a couple regular laborers, because what happens is when somebody dies, it will automatically pull a laborer to replace them. If you have no laborers available, the job they were doing will go unfulfilled. So it's winter now. This is our first winter. We've still got 2 homeless people, but they should be okay. They'll duck into these houses to keep warm. Although I may set them to build another house soon. We've got a decent amount of food. That should be enough for the amount of people we have to get through this winter. We've got our woodcutter making firewood. We've got our gatherers providing food, and we've got our foresters chopping down trees. So we are in a decent position at the moment. I think I'm going to build another house here, and I'm still building stone houses because they take less firewood to heat, and I have the stone resource for it. There were a lot of stones here that I cleared out. I probably don't need these 4 builders anymore, so I'm going to reduce that down to 2. You can see over here, this is the maximum number that can be employed at the time. So to build this house, I can only have at max 2 builders working on it. So the other 2 were just going to waste. So I've just made them general laborers again, and they'll help out wherever they're needed. People are having babies. It's kind of a balancing act. You don't want too many children as compared to working adults, because you need children because eventually your adults are going to die and you need new adults to replace them. But you don't want too many children because children eat food, but they don't produce anything. So you need to make sure you don't have too many compared to your adults, or else people are going to start starving because the kids are drained on the food without contributing any food or anything to production of any kind. Now, another good way to get food, and we can start working on that since everything else is going pretty well, is fishing. You need to build your fishery on a big stream like this, and fishing just produces a good amount of decent, of easy food. Doesn't really depend on season or anything like that. It's a little bit dangerous. People drown, fishers drown sometimes, but it's still a good way to do it. So you need to put it on the water here, and you can see they'll gather fish within that range. So we'll do that. We'll build a little road down to there. Reserve of logs is low. We've only got 2 logs left because we've been chopping them all up into firewood, but hopefully our foresters will be bringing in some more logs soon. I've got 4 laborers right now. I'm going to need to make some fishermen, but I think I will make 2 of them foresters, increase our foresters to max in this one forester area. A handy tip is to see how efficient your work people are. You can actually go in here and go to this tool over here, which is paths. And if you click on paths, it actually shows you where, if you click on these houses, it shows you where the people in them are going to work. Or you can do it the opposite way. You can click on the workplace, and it'll show you where they're going to work. And so that way you can sort of tell if your placements are good. So here's the fisherman's dock. We've got no fishermen yet. You can increase the jobs either from this big panel or from the building itself. So we've got 3 laborers. Let's make 2 of them fishermen. And he's just finishing that road there. So now we'll have them coming down here, and that'll be another way of providing food for our people. This symbol here means that he has no logs to chop. It means that whatever resource they need to work on, he doesn't have any of it. And it's gone away now because foresters are bringing in some more logs. But we really need to increase that. And in fact, what I like to do usually is have 2 foresters and 2 gatherers in a big patch of woods like this. We're now coming into spring of our 2nd year. So let's build another forester over here. Right across from this one. They overlap. That's fine. that'll be good efficiency as far as planting and cutting trees. Kind of screwed up with this road here. I don't know what I was doing, but that's all right. Not a huge deal. You can see up here now we have 14 adults, 0 students, and 4 children. Eventually, and I don't recommend doing it until you have plenty of extra laborers, but eventually you can build a school, and the children will then go to become students before they become adults. And it's just there's no like levels or XP or anything, but what happens is when a child is educated, and it's just a toggle, educated, yes, no. If they are educated, they're more efficient at whatever job you give them. They do it quicker, they produce more, etc. The trade-off is that they don't become eligible for the workforce until later because they're devoting that time to education. So if you have no school, they become adult and able to work quicker. But if you have a school, it takes longer for them to enter the workforce, but they're more efficient when they do. So our woodcutter is still running out of logs, but we're actually close to our max. Our maximum for firewood is 400 right now, which is plenty. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn him off. And you can see here, he now has this symbol, which means it's not working. And this is the woodcutter here. He's got the little question mark because he has no place to work. So what we'll do is we will make him no longer a woodcutter. And for right now, we will make him... What do we want to make him? I guess we don't really have that many. Make him a fisherman. At least until this second forester's building is done. Then we can have him go and forest as well. We also need pretty soon to set up a blacksmith, because tools here are what our people use, and they last a certain amount of time and then they break. And so you need to have a blacksmith making tools to replace the ones that break. People without tools work much slower, less efficiently, because they don't have good tools. And we only have 50 iron at the moment, and we'll need to gather some more, but there's plenty of it. This is all iron right here. So we'll need to send our laborers over there to do that, but I want to make sure that our food and our wood supplies are stable before we worry too much about that. Let me speed up time again. Get this forester's thing done. There we go. So what they do is when you first tell them to build something, they start by bringing all the resources to it in several trips, and then once all the resources are there, then they build it out of the resources. Alright. So there's our second forester hut. There's nobody working there. They may adjust over. So we've got 4 in here right now. They may go 2 and 2. It doesn't really matter. I only have 1 free laborer at the moment, so I'm not going to worry about adding any more foresters right now. I've turned the woodcutter off, so we should begin to build up a little bit of a reserve of logs. Let's build our blacksmith. He is under... So it's resource production. A blacksmith. We'll put him right across from the woodcutter here. And we're doing okay housing-wise. Everybody has a house. People are raising children, so we don't need to worry about building any more houses quite yet. And they're all within a reasonable distance of where they're going to work. Fishermen's are like the farthest away, and that's not even that bad. I mean, obviously, if you want to be maximum efficiency, I'd build a house down here, and I may do that in a little while. But right now, I want to make sure that I use my resources wisely. You know, I need 32 logs to build this. In fact, what I might do to speed that up is tell my guys to harvest. I'm just going to do harvest everything and go over here, because that will give me more iron as well as trees and stone. From that area, let's speed up time again. And anyone who doesn't have anything better to do should be going and doing that. So yeah, they split up here. They've had two foresters working at each building now. So like my builders, if they have nothing to build here, well, they just finished bringing all the resources over, but they'll go and they'll chop stuff down as well. Anyone who's not actively working on another project will go and help out with that. They've got all the materials at the blacksmith now, so they're starting to build him up. Now, the blacksmith is like the woodcutter, another one that I tend to turn on an awful lot. He builds tools at a much faster rate than your people go through tools. So what I usually have him do is build tools till I get up around 100 tools or so, and then just turn the blacksmith off. And those 100 tools will last you for... Okay, he's done now. Will last you for a couple of years. So that you can have that person doing something else. And then when you start getting low on tools again, around 20 or 30 tools, you turn him blacksmith back on. And they start making tools and fill you back up. That'll do you for the first bunch of years. Only very recently in my my furthest game have I started to need to have my blacksmith running continuously, and that's when my population is getting near 100 people. I'm on like year 30 or something. So for quite a while, you're really okay with just using your blacksmith intermittently. Got some people growing up, so they're becoming adults and working as a laborer. I've turned the blacksmith on now, so I've still got one laborer over here in case somebody dies. See, now I've got 2 builders, but I don't need any builders because I'm not building anything new right now. So they're going to be just working as part of this. We're coming into winter again, so I'm going to need to turn my woodcutter back on. It's late autumn, I better do that now. Turn my woodcutter, I've got my 1 laborer, so I'll assign him to be the woodcutter. And he should get to work, because you're going to see the firewood stock here is going to start going down as people start taking it to use to warm their houses up. But we've now got a small amount of logs in reserve, enough that we should be able to get through the winter without too much trouble. The good thing about gatherers and fishermen is that they continue to work right through the winter, whereas farms only work, in the warm months. I don't know how much the gatherers actually do in winter. Probably not as much, but they do work. This symbol here means we've reached the limit. My limit on logs was 400. We're at 415, so he's actually stopping until we get back below 415. But that should be happening relatively quickly because these people are going to start pulling the firewood out to heat their houses with. And what should we also want to build a second gatherer's hut. I guess it wouldn't hurt to do that now, because then with this quadruple segment here, we got 2 gatherers and 2 foresters. That plus the fisherman over here will give us enough food for quite a while. And then we can work on building up the rest of our resource base. Our blacksmith is in place. We'll want to build a quarry to start getting a stone production going. All that kind of stuff. A herbalist, we need an herbalist soon to... this is the average health of our people, and you can see it's already dropped down to 4. An herbalist will provide basic medicine until much later on we'll build a hospital. But... you want an herbalist relatively quickly to keep your people's health up so you don't start getting sickness. We're now in early spring. Shut the woodcutter back down. Having all stone houses really helps. If you have wood houses, you'll notice you use firewood a lot faster. So if you can afford to build stone houses, that's usually the better bet. Cleared out this whole area over here. I told them to clear out, so we've got a decent backlog of stone and iron, which our blacksmith is using to make tools. Just had someone mature into a laborer, so we've got our backup laborer back. They're building the gatherer. I think that's a pretty good starting position. Just about out of time, so I'm going to call this video to a close. But that's a pretty strong starting setup, and you know, since the terrain is random, you'll have to kind of decide where to put things on a case by case basis. But this configuration of basic amount of things is pretty good, and this is fairly self-sustaining for a while. Now you're going to want to grow and spread outward, but if you just leave this alone, this will probably live like pretty much indefinitely. So that's a good way to get started. The tricky thing is when you start to expand, you need to expand your food and firewood production to go with it. So we'll take a look at that a little bit in the next video. Thanks for watching.